It is award season, and of course, we're getting ready for the big one, the Oscars coming up on March 12th. Our pal Chris Woolsey, Senior Director of Communications at Crackle, here to chat all about Oscar movies, all about films. Thank you so much for your time today.
Are you kidding me? Anytime. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's so great to see you. And award season is such a wonderful time, especially for somebody like me, because one, it gets to celebrate the films that I love and that I root for, but also to discover some movies that maybe I didn't know about, and I can go and watch those.
Absolutely. I've been glued to screeners for the last 3 weeks, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. But yeah, I love it. Every time I get a chance to watch those, there's always a couple that I'm like, I don't know anything about this, and I put it in, and it ends up being one of my favorite films of all time. So super exciting.
And especially too, when you go to films of the past, you get to see how a movie lives up, how actors, some of their earlier work, some movies that you may not remember, or may have been too young to see it in the theater when it first came out. You can go back and celebrate some of our favorite directors and stars.
Absolutely. And that's one of the great things about Crackle is we have these, amazing gems that there's several on here that I actually missed just because they were a little before my time. And it's great to have a platform out there where you can watch these things for free.
Let's go ahead and start with the first one, Places in the Heart, 1984. Two words: Sally Field.
Oh my gosh. She's incredible in this film. This I was just telling my daughter about it today. It is one of my favorite films of all time. I think her performance, she obviously won Best Actress for this. Interesting to note, this was her second Oscar win. She won originally for Norma Ray, but it was the second time that her and the screenwriter Robert Benton both won an Oscar on the same night, if you can believe that. So she won her original Oscar for Norma Ray the same night that he won his for writing Kramer versus Kramer. So that was kind of crazy that they won again on the same night.
They're like good luck charms for each other.
Serious. That's how I was thinking. I was like, I wouldn't have worked with anybody else the rest of my life.
Also,
But
1984, also a big year, A Passage to India.
yes, and this is definitely one that I missed the first go around, being younger when this came out. But man, such a great film, and I mean, just had so much to say about race relations and racism and profiling. And in a lot of ways, I think this was a film that really was way ahead of its time. Best Supporting Actress, Peggy Ashcroft, and Best Original Score was Maurice Jarre, but it had 11 nominations. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, and Best Editing. Little interesting trivia. Apparently, Alec Guinness, who's in the film, did not get along with David Lean, the writer-director, at all. Alec Guinness had taken like a couple of weeks to learn this super complicated Hindu dance that was shot for the film, and then David Lean cut that scene out of the film. And Alec Guinness was so mad that he wasted that much time learning this dance that the two never spoke again for the rest of their lives. It's crazy.
You don't do that to Obi-Wan Kenobi. You let Obi-Wan Kenobi dance, right?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Midnight Express, because obviously we know Oliver Stone from the late 80s and the 90s when his career really, really blew up. But 1978, Midnight Express, let's talk about this one.
Yeah, this it's an amazing film. Oliver Stone won for Best Adapted Screenplay. Giorgio Moroder won for Best Original Score. I always tell people this is probably the most tense scene in film history. I don't know if you agree or not, but that scene where he is smuggling the hash and he's standing on the stairs to get into the airplane. He's in Turkey and he starts sweating and he can't stop sweating. And the guard keeps looking. Oh, it's amazing. It's just an incredibly tense film. And you're just on the edge of your seat the entire time. John Hurt was, he's a method actor and was so into his role, he did not shower for the entire 53-day shoot. And apparently the last week of filming, the rest of the cast and crew wouldn't go within 10 feet of him. So that was a little interesting.
Please tell me there was some kind of Oscar or some type of award that he got for that, or the cast got for having to tolerate that.
Well, I think maybe that's more award worthy for sure. Man.
Let's go. All That Jazz, the story of Bob Fosse, starring Jessica Lange.
Yes. So very, very famous in terms of musical theater. Obviously, Bob Fosse was a legend. They won Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Editing, and Best Original Song. Pretty much cleaned up that year. Was also nominated for Best Actor for Roy Scheider, who I thought was incredible in this film, and also Best Director for Bob Fosse, who directed it. Interestingly, Bob Fosse originally didn't want to cast Roy Scheider. He wanted to cast himself. And the producers actually had to go to him and said, if you try to direct and star in this film, you will absolutely die on the set. Because he had a heart condition, and they were like super nervous about him directing it at all, because they just didn't think he was going to be able to survive the filming. And so they actually had to talk him out of casting himself as the lead in the film.
And also too, Bob Fosse, his work still continues to live on. Chicago's doing amazing on a national tour right now, and it's doing big business right now on Broadway as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Bob Fosse, he will live on into the future. His work you can't erase it. It's just amazing.
It's iconic. Cactus Flower, because this is one of those films where you have so many different actors who you may have known their other work, but maybe had not have seen this 1969 film. I mean, Goldie Hawn in one of such an early role.
Yeah. Yep. This is one of her first roles, and yeah, she was amazing. It was interesting. Ingrid Bergman, this was the first time she ever filmed on a soundstage in the United States. So previous to this film, every other project that she had done, and at this point, I think she'd done like 30 movies, they had all been filmed in Europe. But yeah, it's a beautiful film, and this is definitely one that gets looked over, but is definitely worth a watch.
And the final one we want to chat about that's on Crackle right now, On Golden Pond, 1981, 3 different Oscars. I mean, this was a huge movie.
Oh my gosh. I loved this film as a kid. This was a weird movie because I remember I went to go see it with my best friends, and all of us cried during the movie. And then we were all weird about each other because we had seen each other cry in a movie. But it was so good and so touching. And I think it spoke so much to families. I love this movie. The whole relationship with Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda, being father and daughter in real life, just really came across on the screen. And Katharine Hepburn, one of the most amazing performances of her career, I think. But it was interesting. There's a scene in there where Jane Fonda cries, and apparently she couldn't cry on set, and they kept trying to get her to cry and kept trying to get her to cry, and she couldn't, until Katharine Hepburn stood slightly off stage and shook her fist at Jane Fonda. And Jane was so scared of Katharine Hepburn that she burst into tears, and they rolled camera.
So it just takes a little bit of a push, especially someone so iconic as Katharine Hepburn, to kind of take you over that edge.
That's it. And then I also learned that there's Walter the Trout, who plays a character in the film who's this giant fish that they're trying to catch the entire time they're there. Apparently, the trout was taken from a local trout farm, and word got out that trout was put back into the trout farm, and people just flocked to try to catch it. And so I guess the trout farm was just, they had to set up security because there were so many people there trying to catch this famous fish from the movie that was out in the theaters at the time. It was very weird.
I can only imagine the fish are probably like, what's going on? We have a lot of friends, coming to see us today.
Seriously.
And then, final thing here, as we wrap up, as far as the importance of maybe checking out some of these movies, because obviously we live in the now. People are always looking to the future, but celebrating, especially, film students are going back to see some of these iconic films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What does that kind of do for people?
I think it's really important to go back and revisit these films because I think especially in a world where there are so many titles that are available at our fingertips, that we kind of forget the importance of the foundations that these earlier films laid down for the work that's getting done today. And if we don't look back and see the importance of these films, I think we're really doing ourselves a injustice in trying to appreciate the films that we're watching now. I mean, there's just so many amazing filmmakers and performers and writers, producers, directors. And I think we owe it to them to go back and watch these films and get what we can from them.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Go ahead and check out these films here on Crackle.
Always for free. Thanks so much, Rudy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.